joining. I don't know where everyone is from, so if you want to, please tell me where you're joining from. We usually have like interesting locations, so if you don't mind in the chat, just writing where you're joining from, it'll be really good. It'll help me like calm down. So I'm gonna go first. I'm joining from London. Oh, Bilal is joining from Paris. Hi, Bilal. Ireland, Emmanuel. Nice. Vax. Dar Salam, Joe. Okay, now I don't feel like nervous as before, but thank you guys for joining. Um, the session is a monthly AMA session that we have. Hi, Fine from Lagos, Kofu from Dubai, Ravi from Rabat. Nice. Louis from Dublin. Nice to see everybody join. The rundown of the session is we do this every month, where it's Ask Me Anything, and we try to bring like subject matter experts or people that have experienced an area of startup or investing that we feel like the community needs to learn more about. The first 5 minutes is welcoming, everybody here, and then from there we'll do like guest introductions, and then we'll move into the panel discussion. The panel discussion is more extensive, where we get to talk about the topic for today, build by exit, and if you have questions, please write it in the chat. We may not be able to take live questions today, so please feel free to write in the chat. I will just read it after the panel discussion, and that's for like the Q&A, and then we'll give updates about HoaQ. So thank you again for joining. Next slide, please. Hi, Favor from Lagos. Hi, Bule. I hope I got that right, from Lisbon. Hi, Kuda Kwashe from South Africa. Nice to meet everybody. For those joining for the first time, HoaQ is founded upon the premise of community, and we're a community of creators, operators, back-end entrepreneurs in building scalable businesses for Africa and the diaspora. We're really, really, really big on supporting founders, and that's the core of the mission. Founders that are leveraging technology to build economic infrastructure for Africa and Africans. I'm sure people will be like, what's economic infrastructure? Important things first. For us to kind of like facilitate capital to be able to grow the economy around Africa and Africans. So we've invested in startups in, I think, about 12 countries. Some of the countries are listed here, from Paris to the United Kingdom to USA to Tanzania to Rwanda to Nigeria. We backed over 100 portfolio companies, meaning there are 100 companies that we've actually put money in from the community. The community has grown over the last 5 years. We turned 5 this year, and we have about 800, or at least over 800 active investors investing. Like I said, and our investors are also like from different geographies, just like the companies we invest in. So we have 800 of them. Some of them are on this call. Thank you for joining. We've done about 12 exits in our 5 years, and we've deployed close to $4 million. I think it's even a little over $4 million, especially with the deals that we've done this year. So we've been quite active. I know it's not easy for a lot of like communities, and I think we pride ourselves in just being consistent over the past 5 years. So that's a little bit about HoaQ. We'll tell you how to join us if you haven't joined us after the panel discussion. Please, next slide. Our first speaker is Chidinma Okoli. I think we have a lot of mutual friends, and obviously I'm excited to have her here today. Chidinma works with Moniepoint. She's the principal of mergers and acquisition. Mergers and acquisition is just like how companies come together or how companies buy other companies. She's also a founder, and she's been an investor for a long time. So we'll hear from her, her journey, and be able to ask her questions about the topic of the day. Next slide, please. Our second speaker is Boris Tane. He's one of, our very, very, we'll say, successful founders, just because he's really a really great guy, very calm. He doesn't talk so much. So thank you, Boris, for deciding to join us today. Boris is the founder of Baselime. Fun fact is, HoaQ is an investor, or was an investor in Baselime, and Baselime was acquired by Cloudflare. Cloudflare is listed on the stock exchange. So that was a very good experience for all of us. Boris is now an engineering manager doing what he loves at Cloudflare, and he'll take us on his journey from starting Cloudflare to get it acquired by, starting Baselime to get it acquired by Cloudflare. And last but not least is my colleague Folakemi. So Folakemi is the general manager. She's just put on a video of HoaQ Club. She's the one that makes us all look good, make sure that everybody is nice. She's moderating today's session, and over to you, Folakemi.
Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me? If you can just use a thumbs up so I know that everyone can hear me. Great, 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 great. I'm super excited to be moderating this because, I'm the biggest fan of Chidinma and also Boris. Boris is a success story. Chidinma, I love to see what she does. So I'm super excited to be doing this. Okay, just before we go into conversations, build, buy, exit, I know a lot of you have been seeing a lot of, acquirers, and you're wondering, how do they locate these people? How do they get acquired? What goes into getting acquired? Do you as a founder, do you want to build? Do you want to buy? You want to exit? What does that look like? So I'm super excited to be talking to Chidinma and Boris today. Just before we go into the conversations, right? Let's just quickly go into introductions. I'm sure everyone is curious about, Boris's story, Chidinma's story. How did you get into mergers and acquisition? So I'll start with you, Chidinma, right? You are currently the principal of mergers and acquisition at Moniepoint, right? And before then, you've worked in VC for over 7 years. You have a startup as well. So if you can just quickly run us through like your journey and how you got here.
Sure. Thanks everyone. Hi, great to be here. Um, it should be nice. So yes, my name is Chidinma. So I began my career in VC. So began at a seed stage fund, and then eventually moved over to a growth stage fund. So basically, have worked across like seed stage to growth stage and invested. Did that for 5 years, and then had like a mini, I would say like a sabbatical. Came back, joined a climate VC for like 6 months, and then eventually joined Moniepoint with their M&A team, basically doing corp dev. So doing both M&A and also investor relations. I'll say for me, like going from VC to Moniepoint was just basically, I think while I was in VC, I had done a deal, actually a similar company to Moniepoint, where we had sold that business to Fair Money. So it was called Crowdforce. So I mean, if anyone is familiar with Moniepoint, so we began as an agency banking platform and then eventually moved it into returns acquiring. So Crowdforce was doing like pure what you call it, agency banking. And so we eventually sold our business to Fair Money, who's like a digital lender. So for me, that was like my first intro into M&A, but it was like from the sales side, because like we sold to Fair Money. So when I was thinking of like, what, like I done 6 years in VC, like I wanted to like do something else. Like it just made sense, like, to go do M&A like the leading fintech. So that's kind of like how I got into Moniepoint. I've been here for just over a year. I joined July of last year, so like about like a year and a month. But yeah, it's been super interesting so far. But yeah, that's my journey with it.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And Boris, you are a founder, you've been acquired. If you could just quickly run us through your journey to Baselime and maybe just like a quick, one-liner for after Baselime, because I know we're going to go into all of that later.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot for having me today. Yeah, I'm Boris. I'm a software engineer. I write code. I've been doing that for a very, very long time. The earlier kind of years of my career were at startups here when I was in London. Building, train ticket buying software, whatever. I was a software engineer. And then I noticed that there was a problem in the industry in general. Observability was just not great. And after COVID, during COVID, I was kind of building a lot of stuff just for fun. And this idea kind of stuck to kind of make observability better in general. And that's when I started Baselime, I think late 2022, something like that. I worked on it for a couple of years, and in 2024, no, it was late 2021, and then in 2024, last year, we got acquired. I've been at Cloudflare for about a year and a half now, building observability, making the life of software engineers around the world a little easier.
Great. That's good to hear. Thank you so much. Just to break the ice, when a founder says, I'm building to get acquired, what comes to your mind? And I'll start with you, Chidinma. What comes to your mind? Do you think smart strategy, or what do you think? Is it dangerous thinking, smart strategy? What do you think?
I mean, to me, it's definitely like it's a great strategy because again, like I always look at things from the lens of an investor because, like I said, like my career has been like in investing from VC and things. So I will actually be worried if you say like you don't want to exit because like how will I make my money back? you know?
I feel like you hear like founders say, this is my baby. I don't want to let it go. You hear lots of founders say that. Founders that are married to their companies.
Yeah, but like once you raise VC funding, you have to let some parts go because like how would I like the point of raising VC funding that like I'm also going to make multiples like on how much I put into you. So you have to actually I think like founders like who cannot demarry themselves from their ideas like to me is a red flag. Like if you want to raise VC because like the math just doesn't really add up because if you're raising VC funding like I need to be exit to share the joy to like other startups. So I think for me it's I don't know like if Boris has like a different opinion, but that's just my son of this.
Boris, what do you think?
I think it depends on the type of company that you're building and also kind of the scale of ambition that you're working towards. There are companies that by definition are probably not going to be worth $1 trillion. So it's totally fair to build them with the idea that hey, there is a potential for an early exit here, and there are I think you can mute people. Yeah, cool.
Yes.
And there are also companies where by definition they have like the potential to change the world. And when you're building the second type of company, or if you have the belief that you're building the second type of company, I think that kind of thinking about an acquisition early is actually probably a detrimental strategy because the metrics that make a company look good for acquisition are the same metrics that make a company successful. So you rather kind of focus on making your company as successful as possible instead of over optimizing for a potential acquisition, which might come, might not come. These are things that you don't have much control over most of the time. Whereas, making your company successful, getting customers, growing revenue, growing usage, those are things that you and your team have much more control over.
Thank you very much. Over to Chidinma now. You've seen and executed, acquisitions. You've invested in companies. You've facilitated acquisitions, right? When you're evaluating a deal for like potential acquisition, what's the biggest green flag? I know you said your red flag now. So what's the biggest green flag that tells you, this is a good buy? This works with the company that is getting acquired and the company that is acquired. How do you potentially determine what a good buy is?
Yeah, I mean, I think funny enough, like it's kind of like in line with what Boris said, because like I think building with the mindset that you would acquire, I don't like it's not mutually exclusive to like also like still building like a good business. So like definitely, I think a company that has been built like with like an insane focus on like your customers, like your product, like just like being the best possible business, like for your customers. I think like it's always a green flag for sure. I think from like a deals point of view, like something that I always look out for is like how easy is it to integrate? Because I think like when you look at deals like just M&A deals globally, one of like the key reasons for M&A failures is like it's just like poor post-merger integration. So there's like the 100-day rule where it's like if you're not able to be on the right path post post the first 100 days, then like that deal most likely would not it wouldn't really work out. So I think just thinking about like, okay, what, like this company, is there like a clear product path? Like from day one, can I see how like this can like fits almost like seamlessly with like my existing business? Because again, I'm looking at it from the idea of like I'm buying you for like my company, right? So it's like, okay, I have to show like how does this fit into like my my overall company strategy, product roadmap. I think also it's like how does this increase like my valuation as well? Because at the end of the day, again, like from like a strictly deals basis, it's like when you're buying a company, most times like you would do like a share swap, right? So I'm going to dilute like my investors, right? Because I'm going to give you like you and like your shareholders like some of like of my shares in like as part of like the term. So it's like I want to be like from day one, you want to be able to show that this deal is value accretive, where it's like I'm not losing money, right? It's like from different day one, there should be like a clear path, like to how this company like like grow revenue. Like if the overall business was already, let me say, EBITDA profitable, you don't want to buy a company who like now like drag down your like your margin. So I think those are like things that I would definitely like look out for. It will be for sure like clear path to integration, very strong like product market fit, and like like a chance for valuation uplifts from day one.
Thank you for that. And just for a follow-up question on that, right? How do you then identify the startups? Because now you have to, match two startups where, this needs this has this. How do they get together? So how do you find the startups for founders in the room that they're looking to be acquired? How do they position themselves in the faces of potential acquirers?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I think for us again, because of like the nature of like the stage at which we acquire, we typically use advisors. So we have like M&A advisors who who these companies have probably engaged them to help find like a buyer, like either on retainer or like just on long term. And so like they send like their mandates to us, and then we look at the ones that we think are fit. We also really tap into our investor network. Like we have like a wide large roster of global like investors. So like guys, like we're looking for a business doing this thing. Like if there's anyone in your portfolio that fits, please like do like a one entry. So I'll say definitely from like advisors and also our investor network. We've also like had like a few cold emails. We haven't quite done any deal yet from that, but I'm like it's possible for sure. I personally, whenever I travel, I always I look at billboards. But I look at products that I enjoy. I'm like, who is behind this product? I'm like maybe if I just maybe sorry, I'm like, like this payment is like super smooth. Like, okay, like who is behind it? Like, and I'm like okay, like hey guys, does anyone know like who backs them? Yeah. So it's just different ways. But I think those are like the three main ways that I would say we get access to these founders.
Okay. So for founders in the room, be loud about your products. Like I feel like we can't say this enough. Be loud about your products. Billboard, growth signal, just be loud about it. You don't
I do that in Nairobi. Yes. Literally in Nairobi, I do that in Nairobi, yeah.
Yes, you don't know who's looking, so be loud. To you, Boris, at what point did you know that Baselime might get acquired? What were you watching in terms of like product, traction, investor signals? How did you know that Baselime is now at a point where you can be acquired? And if you don't mind sharing, you can tell us how Cloudflare approached you, just for founders in the room as well.
Yeah, it was absolutely not planned. It was, the core focus remained, getting users, getting more customers, more usage, more revenue, in that order. And I think the kind of late summer, early autumn 2023, we built an integration with Cloudflare, such that developers building on Cloudflare could have observability on Baselime, and that was pretty successful. We got quite a few users using our tool. Even internal people that work at Cloudflare started using our tool for observing their applications, and I remember I went on a call with a few of the kind of product leadership people at Cloudflare, and I was like, hey, I like this integration that we built, but I want, a spot in your dashboard such that we can get even more customers kind of more organically. And from that call, the conversation about joining Cloudflare kind of started kind of to bubble up. So at 0 point in time, I was thinking, hey, like, is this the right time to get an exit or anything like that? The focus was getting customers, getting usage, growing revenue. Those were the only three things we were caring about.
Thank you for that. So, anytime can be the right time, basically.
Yeah, and I think there are multiple types of kind of acquisitions, right? And as a founder, what you don't want is to be in a position where you're running out of cash and you're kind of out there looking for somebody to acquire your company. You want to be in a position where you have enough cash in the bank to, ride out maybe another year. You have enough traction that you can raise your next round, and you are now in a position where potential companies to acquire you are coming to you rather than you going to them. And the reason they come to you is usually going to be because they feel like, most early stage startups, seed, pre-seed, you're a team of what, maximum 10 people. You're like 10 people, you've built something that millions of people hopefully like and want more of. So it's actually cheaper for them to acquire you. It's a cohesive 10 people team that has overachieved rather than going out there and putting job ads and, spending a year to get about 10 people, but they have to let go 7 of them, and the 3 that are left are not going to be performing at the same level as your team did. So again, my view is, when you're building your company, don't think about getting acquired. Just focus on getting customers, getting usage, growing revenue. Those are the only things that matter.
Mm, mm. Thank you so much for that. Chidinma, what do founders often get wrong when trying to build with exit in mind? We've all agreed, obviously you need to think exit while you're building, but what do you think that the founders get wrong when they're trying to build with exit in mind?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Um, and I think like it's a bit of a, I don't know. I know I'll just say it, but I mean I think like, at least from my view, what I've seen that founders get wrong is that so like they're not quite thinking about like what's the value add for the acquirer, right? Because like I said, you need to know like what is the buyer paying for. The buyer, like what do they value? Like what, because like that would determine like how far they want to go, what kind of terms they want to give you as well. And like there's like maybe like 2 things in every deal that like each buyer like really wants, right? So you have to be able to say, like what exactly does this buyer want, and like like how can I like position my business to be the best like the best option for them. But in the same vein, it's a bit hard to do that because like I mean there's a bit of a risk in doing that, because it's like if you build, because I would also advise like any founder like to build like with the mind of like of getting acquired by this sort of person, because like what if it just doesn't really work out. So I would say have like a generalist like approach, but I think like I think what I would say is like the companies that I've seen like being bought are companies who have become productive, like who have become like market leaders in one thing. So I think like, even when Boris was also sharing his story, like they are good at one thing. Like I think he said is observability. I'm not quite sure yet what I mean exactly yet, but like I've even like never heard that before. But like they were a market leader in one thing, right? Just like in one thing. So I would say like being able to be very good at one thing was like, okay, everyone in if I want to buy a company in this in this sector, this is a person. We've had like an acqui-hire type thing like Moniepoint. And the company that we bought was a company that was doing the one thing. We wanted to go into like a particular product vertical. I wanted a particular type of business who had like kind of like gotten market know-how in that particular sector and like in that particular vertical. And we went to like look for like a very unknown business. I think it was really like 6 months old or so. But because they had built for this particular type of customer in mind,
yeah,
like they knew how that customer segment works. Like they knew like what they wanted. Like they had like the market know-how that was not like very well known. It made sense for us to acquire it. So I don't know if that answers the question, but it's like just like you, I guess like just become really good at one particular thing. And I feel like in some ways, like it could also be like, cause like I mean, like people always joke like, oh, like in Nigeria as a fintech, you do payments, airtime, you do everything. Like you never know which one. So yeah, it's a bit of a pro and con. But I would say like that. I think like those who get both are people like who really are able to like match what they're offering to like what their acquirer wants. Once there's like that perfect match, it just makes sense.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for that. Boris, do you have anything to add on that? What founders often get wrong as a founder yourself?
It's a tricky one because I actually don't know what it means to build for exit. Like I have no idea how somebody could build for exit.
Okay, maybe let's just rephrase. What our founders often get wrong while building.
Okay, yeah, in general. Okay, so I'm just gonna speak from like experience, right? Like you need to be relentless on one or maximum two metrics, right? Like there is only one number that actually matters, and that number should not be revenue. It should be a number that your team, anybody on your team can do something to move that number, right? Like for us, it was a representation of usage. We had a lot of metrics that we got absolutely wrong the kind of first year, but after, kind of focusing again and saying, hey, we need only one number, and that's the thing that is going to drive every single decision that we make. Do we hire? Do we let somebody go? Do we expand into a new market? Do we do disintegration? How do we design the product? What features do we build, etc.? All of these decisions were to move a single number, and that number was a proxy for revenue, because then when you hit your revenue target, you're probably going to be able to raise your next round, etc., etc. One of the other mistakes, again, mistakes I've made myself, is staying lean. Like you need to stay as lean as possible until you get to PMF. If you have no idea what you're doing, don't hire people like without reasons. You will always figure out how to convince yourself that, hey, I need this person, I need that person. No, you don't. Like do everything yourself. What else is interesting? How hard it is to actually get users. I think we like most first-time founders, we think that, hey, we are going to create this automated system that is going to, automatically send emails and people will reply and AI will jump in and blah, blah, blah. You need to message people yourself. You need to be in the trenches, messaging thousands and thousands of people before you get, 100 calls, and out of those 100 calls only like 20 or 15 are going to convert. It's only when I stopped trying to automate my way to growth and actually going to the trenches and doing the hard work myself that things started working. Like all the automation magic, blah blah blah, probably not going to work until you have product market fit and you know exactly what you're doing. So yeah, I think those are kind of the key things when building.
Okay, thank you so much. Still on you, Boris. You've spoken about how exciting it was and validating for you to be acquired by Cloudflare, right? In your all the other talks that you've had. What's one thing that the exit process? What's one exit process that no one prepares you for? So when they had reached out to you, you had spoken. What's that one thing that you thought, I wasn't prepared for this? If you can mention just off the top of your head.
Yeah, I think the whole thing, right? Like the whole process, um, it's completely different from fundraising, because fundraising, what you need to do is convince one partner that, hey, what I'm doing here is interesting, and the partner is going to go to their investment committee, and 2 weeks later they wire the funds, right? Like it's fairly easy. But when you're getting acquired, every single decision that you've made in the business in the past now is going to be checked and scrutinized, right? Who did you hire? People that you gave offers to and they didn't accept the offers, people that you had to let go, who owns the IP, who still has access to the code base, who has ever had access to the code base. All these questions, and this is not even talking about investor relationships, because you might have 4 funds, 8, 10 angels on your cap table. These are all people that need to be involved in the M&A process. It's really, really, really tough. Really, anybody going through it, at least the first time, get good lawyers, they're expensive, but it's still going to be stressful, but at least you know that things are going to be done well. And if you know one or two people that have been through the process in the past, get them as advisors to kind of just talk to them, because it's tough. And one of the interesting things is everybody has a kind of different agenda, right? The company acquiring you is trying to, get you and your team to join with your technology for the lowest price possible. Your investors are trying to maximize their returns. You are trying to maximize how much cash you get. Your team is wondering, am I going to have a job next week? Should I be, looking for a job already, and things like that. So everybody has kind of divergent aspirations and motives and agendas, and you are the one person in the middle that is bringing all these people together and trying to make them all sign a piece of document that will make everybody happy. That is pretty tough. So yeah, get good lawyers and speak with people that have been through it in the past.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Chidinma, if I could come to you, what would you say the process is like from your own lens? Just because you're the acquirer in this, in this book. What was the process like for you and your team when you've already spoken about how you use advisors and all of that. So now that you've identified the startups, what does the process look like? Just for those that are in the room and are wondering, what would that look like if I'm reached out to? What's the process going to be like? How long is that going to take? For Boris, you had mentioned, 2 weeks, thereabouts. I'm sure that's not the case for every acquirer, but from your own lens, what does that look like?
Yes, for sure. So for us, it always begins with like this strategy, right? So like, what are we acquiring for? And for us, it's mostly like is one of two things: either product expansion or like new market expansion. So either maybe we want to go deeper into like like in Nigeria, so like we want to buy like someone who helps us launch this product faster, or we want to go into a new market and like buy someone there. And so it begins with like like what is this strategy, and then very closely is like working on like really product team. So I find that like I work like a lot more like with our product team, versus like when I was a VC person. Now it's like, okay, the company has a product roadmap, right? And so like whatever we are buying was like aligned, with that. So like when like in VC you go like you go back to IC to get approval. Here like you're going to the product to the CPU. You're going to like the different business leaders, right, to get buy-in. And like Boris said, like that takes sense, because sometimes a deal might like make sense like to use like, oh, like for sure, like it fits very well, but then you go to like a different business leader, like you're like, oh no, like we can just do this in house, like no, like we shouldn't buy it, or like has like a very different view. So now you have to spend time like convincing every single person, right? And not every like like so like not everyone is like a finance person or like is like an investment person. So it's a bit tougher, and so I think that's why M&A like deals take a lot more time than like a typical VC deal. It can go anywhere to like 6 months, depending on like on how long it takes. But for us, I think now we find like it's something that we kind of like want to progress with them. We kind of like sign NDAs and go into like an extensive DD process. And what that looks like is like it's us both bringing in like our tech team to like test out the product, see like how it integrates. I think like it feels like modular, like how like it fits well with what we have already. We also have like legal guys as well, like just looking through the docs, and then of course it's also like the culture as well, because I think one key thing that we found is that I think by virtue of how like someone who is the founder is, they're kind of like people who like almost fly solo, most times. And when you're being acquired by like a larger company, where it's like, yes, you still have your autonomy, but like you're coming in to basically be like a product leader for one product within like a company. So like now you're reporting to a CPO, right? Like you no longer have like direct access to like the CEO. Like so like it's a bit of a it's a change, right? And like we've seen that sometimes like some founders can't really like deal with that switch, as which is normal. So we spend like lots of time like focusing on culture. It's like you have to be like make sure that like this founder like can fit into like our culture. Like kind of like sits in the same room with like your founder, like and they're not fighting. You get so things things like that. Also, that I think if it's like a new market thing as well, like there's lots of like work on saying, okay, you know what, who are the other key players in this market? What's your market share? Like, are you like the best like for us? So would even like engage external consultant to help us like do like almost like a what's it called, like a blind shopping, like go into like your market and like see, okay, what do your customers think about you, right? Like aside what you've told us, right? Okay, how like what your like your customers think that like you're like a nice to have, or like a need to have, like are you top of mind, for them. So yeah, it's a whole like lots of like research, evaluation, and then trying to get the buy-in of like all the different business leaders as well. You also always have to prove that, okay, like buy versus build, right? So like, like if you just put like, we already have like devs and things. If you just like, like put like some team towards this, can we like, build it faster? Like what is the cost, cost benefit like ratio of going to buy someone new, having to like upskill them like on your culture, bring that in, like other work, so like just like putting like a team towards it, like since we already have that. So like there's always that tension there. But yeah, I think it can take up to like 6 months, depending on just how complex or like how grown the deal is as well. And then of course, like there's when you get to legal docs as well, there's like so many like terms, depending on the cap table prior, like like the investor rights. Yeah, there's all those things. So yeah, it can be a pretty dragged process very quickly, like if you're not careful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You said a lot about culture, and that was going to be, the next thing I was going to just speak on. For you, Boris, how were you able to protect the culture and vision of Baselime while going into Cloudflare rather? And how have you maintained that up till now?
Yeah, I think those are things that, okay, they're not going to be the key items or the key bullet points in the agreement for the sale, but these are things that need to be discussed with the product team that you're joining, the engineering team that you're joining. Hey, how do you work? Can I speak with one or two engineers on the team? For us, it was a little easier because I already had relationships with a few people at Cloudflare because they were using Baselime. But these are the sort of things that you need to know before going in, because it's really easy to, I've seen founders that end up absolutely not liking the culture of the team that they join. And for us, it was a little easier because kind of culture wide, it's not too different. Like it's pretty close, not too different. And for the things that are important to us as ex-Baselime, it was a conversation with the people. I was working with the people above me. Hey, like my team is going to continue working the way we have been working before. That's the way we operate the best. We can incorporate, a lot of the things that are coming from other teams, but A, B, and C is probably just going to slow us down. It's going to make some of the guys pretty miserable. Is there a way we can do without that? And, those conversations, they're kind of the easiest ones to have. Once those conversations are had, it's been pretty smooth sailing for us since then. We hired a few people. We also got a few people to kind of join from other teams to join my team. And when they joined, it was like, hey, this is how we work. This is how we operate. Is that something that you want to do? Is that something that you're going to be comfortable with? If the answer is yes, okay, let's go. If the answer is no, sorry about that.
Okay, thank you so much. I have like 5 follow-on questions just on that, but because of time, please, if you have any questions, you can just use the chat so that we can take them after the conversations. Just 2 more questions for you, Chidinma and Boris. What do you think the next 3 to 5 years in Africa, 3 to 5 years of M&A in Africa will look like? Do you think there will be more founder-led exits, acquirers, cross-border, plays? What do you think? I know, like in just the last half of this year, we've seen a lot of acquirers, companies, startups acquiring startups. What do you think that would look like in the next 3 to 5 years in Africa?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the trend would remain. I think there'll definitely be like more merger of equals, where it's like, okay, there's someone who is the regional like lead in maybe say West Africa, And like there's someone else again doing the same thing in like East Africa. Instead of like them would like trying to like conquer whole of Africa, they just come together and like merge, and like boom, like now you're in two different regions for sure. So I think like we'll definitely like see that like that regional cross M&A at some point. Definitely some more acqui hires. I think that like there's now like as companies like grow and like get to like the Series B, like Series C stage, there's a lot more demand like to verticalize more. And sometimes it's easier to like just like buy like an existing product and like people like buy like the key hire, so basically an acqui hire, than trying to like build afresh. At least we've done that, and like it's proven to work so far. So definitely like like more acquihires for sure. Maybe like a few like large size like acquisitions, like like maybe like a global player who wants to like have like a strategic like hold like on a local player. Maybe that, and hopefully maybe at least one IPO in the next 3 to 5 years, or 2 or 3. Fingers crossed for you.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I'm with you on that for sure. Boris, do you have anything to add to that? What do you think from your own lens, what it looks like in next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, there is a lot of capital kind of flowing around right now. But the main challenge is that post Series A, or at Series A's and above, it's concentrated in very few companies. Like there is a huge drought between people that raised a seed in 2023, 2024. Today, unless they have astronomical numbers, it's quite hard to get to that Series A. Like the kind of threshold for a Series A went from 1 to 2 mil ARR to whatever random number somebody gets out of their hat today, which means that there are then a lot of companies that are not necessarily going to be in the strongest position to raise their Series A, but they are very strong teams, very strong teams, very talented engineers. I think a lot of companies are going to find that acquiring those companies is probably going to be easier than trying to build, a 10 people team kind of independently. And after that, you have all these companies that will then be able to raise those 30 mil, 40 mil Series A round, and then 100 mil Series B, which is kind of crazy. Who acquires them, right? Like who has the capital to acquire 100 million Series B company? It leaves only very few companies that have the capital available to kind of make those acquisitions. So I think that, in kind of 3-4 years, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens to all those teams. But everybody that is kind of in the seed stage, pre-seed seed stage today, either you go for it and you get 10 mil ARR within the next 2 years and you raise one of those 50 mil Series A rounds, or you have obvious exit opportunities with acqui-hires. It's obviously not the kind of path you want because you want to go for the moonshot, but this is a door that is going to be open.
Thank you very much. And just to my final question before we start taking questions from the audience, what's one piece of advice you give an early stage founder thinking ahead to a potential exit? I'll start with you, Chidinma.
Interesting. I'd say like just build for your customers. Like I mean, I think like traction like always makes like discussions easier. When you have like good traction, you have like paying customers, recurring revenue, like you're like a market leader. I think like those are like metrics that are like the most that are the most like critical. Like before we even get to like like culture and other things, of like what is the company doing? Like do they have increasing growth over the last like in a couple of years or a month? Like do they have like paying customers? Is this sticky? What's their retention rate as well? So yeah, I would say like you just focus primarily on being a business, which is like your goal is to make money, make your customers happy, and then like other things will come from there.
Thank you very much for that. Boris, anything to add?
I mean, the basic, right? Like, don't do complicated things. The basic. get users, get them to use your product, get them to pay for it. Like that's it. Like if I actually wish someone told me this. I mean, someone told me and I didn't listen. But it took me a year and a half to realize that those are the only things that you need to care about.
Mm, mm. Thank you so much. Before we go into questions, a big thank you to Chidinma, to Boris for just having this session with us. It's been amazing. I really enjoyed this conversation. If it was just me, I will be talking for another 2-3 hours because maybe I want to be a founder someday. Who knows? So just getting myself ready for acquisition. So I'll take the first question now. From Kizito, it says, how has integration been post-acquisition for you, Boris? What has worked in hindsight, and what are the lessons for founders building to keep in mind about what that could look like?
Integration is always going to be tricky-ish. Of course, it's ideal if you use the same cloud provider, you use the same tech stack, you use all of the same things. But ultimately, you need to use the tech stack that works for you and your team and your customers. If you're comfortable with GCP, use GCP. Don't use AWS because you're thinking that acquirers will want you to use AWS. That's not how it works. When you join, if you have we had a completely different stack from what people at Cloudflare were using. We just took 2 months, heads down, let's rebuild everything. That's pretty much it. And you need to work very closely with the product team that you're joining to make sure that those first 3 months are very well invested. Because after the first 3 months, excitement starts to die down a little bit. You're not the cool kids on the block anymore. You cannot ask for, the first month, anything you ask will be done. After 6 months, you are just a normal team. So you get, at the back of the queue like everybody else. So, don't over optimize anything. Just do what makes you a great business. If you have the chance to get acquired, you will be able to figure that out at that point in time.
Thank you so much. I know we've spoken about this a lot. Just maybe to reiterate, Chidinma, what are the 3 components that makes the company ready for an acquisition?
Great traction, so financial, revenue, paying customers, product market fit, all that good stuff. I'll say that for sure. One other thing that we did not really speak about is just like having great systems and processes. I think that is definitely a make or break. So you're using, so let's say how is your accounting done, right? So is it is money going to the CEO's personal account? Do you have an ERP in place? Do you have clear policies and SOPs and things like that, right? So I think that for sure is also like a key make or break, for a deal. And then the third would just be have a great tech if it's a tech company, right? So a great tech that works, does what it says, it does. It's not easily replicable. Has some form of defensibility in a sense that makes it very hard for someone else to come in and replicate, right? Yeah. So I think those are my top 3 things for sure.
Okay. Thank you very much. Just on to the next question for Chidinma as well. When bootstrapping becomes next to impossible, what other funding options should founders leverage before seeking VC or instead of seeking VC?
Maybe grants, there's grant options, so you can explore grants. You can also raise from, I always talk raise from family or friends before you go to VC. These are people that know you and hopefully trust you. So family and friends, there's grants for different things you're doing. Yeah, and maybe even I always say customer-based financing, where I know a founder who I think this works maybe mostly for B2B or at least SaaS businesses, where you almost build a wait list and you get able to pay you ahead, and then you use that to to develop the product, and then just keep recycling that. I actually know the founder who just did that. They're building a cybersecurity product, and they were basically able to sell and pitch the idea to a large corporate, and they pay them $6, 6 figures in USD. I think for a 6 months subscription. and then they use that money to go build and and then I guess roll out eventually. So yeah, you can also do customer-based financing. I think the goal is that you always want to get to home of traction. Like, sure, I think once you can show that people are paying for your service, it gets easy to raise money from anybody. Like once you can show that like someone has actually given you like the hard-earned dollars because like they think that like your product is worth it. Like it just makes the story easier. So like try and get that first sale. Just try and get that first sale, and then like hopefully things are easier from there.
Okay. Thank you very much. Try and get that first sale. I hope you're listening. Boris, do you have anything else to add to this question?
Can you repeat the question, please? It
When
was
bootstrapping becomes impossible, funding options. I think,
that stuff. I don't know. I'm not spending my money building a business. Go and raise.
Okay. All right. Question for both parties. How big of an impact does revenue play? I mean, we've spoken about this in extent, so I will just skip over that. Chidinma, does Moniepoint focus only on SaaS acquisitions, or do you also consider traditional brick and mortar companies?
I think it's more on like what the product offering is. Like we would like acquire like if it fits like into like our product roadmap, like we would acquire like a big. But I think like it's a bit of a vague question, but like yeah, like I don't know that I would acquire like a restaurant.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but like but I think like if it's something that fits into like what we're doing, then we would have a look at it.
Okay.
Maybe we can talk more offline on that.
Yes, exactly. Please go and follow our speakers, Chidinma Okoli on LinkedIn and Boris Tane on LinkedIn as well. So if you have any questions for them, you can just go ahead and speak to them. Please connect with our speakers. Boris, you asked how Cloudflare approached you, but I want to know how you prepared yourself to be acquired. In line of mentality, should I sign or not? Acquisition money, product team alignment.
Yeah, gonna speak just from my experience. I don't think there is, at least the first time, there is no preparation. At least for me, there was no preparation. It was out of the blue. It was like, what am I doing here? That's why it's important to have people that you can trust to speak with, that have no skin in the game. No, they will just tell you the truth. And ideally, people that will not tell you what to do, but they will tell you what they think, and then you go and you decide what to do. All of this is very nerve-wracking, at least for me. It was very nerve-wracking. First time, never done this before. So before I raised capital, the biggest ever contract I signed was a kind of rent thing, like, my rent is 1,200 a month, something like that. That was the biggest contract I'd ever signed. And now we're talking about, acquiring a company, shareholders getting paid, all of that. It was really, really tough. So yeah, just get people that you can trust and ask them. Ideally, you should probably get these people before you get in an acquisition process. They are the same advisors that can advise you on acquisitions are the same that could advise you on how to build your business. So if you get those, you are in a very good place.
Okay. Thank you so much. And that is the end of our session. A big thank you to Chidinma, to Boris. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge. This was amazing. It was a great session, and so many gems just dropping here and there that everybody's getting for free. But thanks to HoaQ. Thank you so much for joining us. And I would pass it over now to my colleague Yewande that will take it on from here. Thank you guys so much.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chidinma. Thank you, Folakemi. Thank you, Boris. Really, really enjoyed the session. I learned a lot myself. Thank you. Sorry, we're just going to share a couple of announcements and then we wrap up. I know we're over, so maybe like the next 5 minutes and we should be done. Can I have the next slide, please? Sorry, guys, just do one. 2 minutes. We'll have. Sorry, guys. I have the slides up, please. Can you guys hear me? Or am I okay? Can you hear me? All right, thank you. Sorry, guys, for maybe I'm supposed to announce from my head. Okay, so announcements. All right, cool. All right, just like a few updates and we'll be out of here. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have a couple of deals right now. Like we said, we invest in really great startups. We have Mainstack on the deal for the month. We have Task, we have Biteside, and I think we're missing one, Sojo, but we have a couple of really good deals. We've just moved platforms to I don't know how to, I don't want to say sister company because Joe is on the call, and obviously I don't know if he wants to talk about it for 1 minute, but we have a couple of deals right now. Mainstack is the company for enabling creators, entrepreneurs like build and sell globally like a local. We have Task. Task is a very, very important one for us. We actually look for deals that really catalyze not just financing for startups, but also like talent as well. And Task is like a talent management platform. Is founded by MI, and I think that's another great one that we have currently open. We have Bitesides. Bitesides is one of the most interesting AI companies we've seen. We encourage you to check it out. And Sojo is missing, but it's also on the platform. And the platform that we use is called Borderless. We'll share how you can join and sign up on Borderless through signing up from HoaQ. Next slide, please. As a community, we're big on meeting people offline and online. We have a couple of events coming up. There's Nairobi, there's Lagos, there's Toronto, at least over the next couple of months. We have a monthly onboarding session. It's on 15th of August. So if you feel like you've just joined or you want to join, you can, go to HoaQ.co, sign up, and then you have that virtual session with you. We have an ecosystem in events in Nairobi in conjunction with Borderless. Same thing in Houston. We have, if you're going for Afrotech or if you know anyone going for Afrotech, the Africans at Afrotech. Our goal is also to catalyze, networking for like-minded, super talented Africans, investors, operators, just expanding your community, even via HoaQ and Borderless. We have the Avon Congress in October in Lagos. So if you're going to be around as an angel investor or you run a syndicate, Borderless will be taking, and partnering with us for an event in Lagos. And then finally, we have Founders Connect. Some of our community members are really big on even, a different kind of community. So if you're in Toronto, 16th of August, there's Founders Connect happening in Toronto, so you can actually attend or just send it to someone that you think will be helpful for. Next slide. HoaQ Fund. So HoaQ Fund, I'm not cheating, but I run HoaQ Fund. And HoaQ Fund is an early stage fund where we invest in like super interesting startups. For example, like I said, we invested in Baselime, and Boris is just an amazing founder. So we look for amazing founders both on the continent and outside the continent. We deploy capital usually alongside the club or with other co-investors. So if you want to invest in the funds, it's a little bit hands-off. We do all the due diligence, choice, supporting the founders up until we invest from pre-seed to Series A. Or if there are startups that you feel like the fund should look at, you can also let us know. And it's also on the website, HoaQ.co/HoaQ Fund/the HoaQ Fund, just look at the top right. So whether you want to join HoaQ itself as a community of angel investors, or you want to join the fund, or you want to refer startups to both, please let us know. The form is also on the website. Next slide, please. Yes, and final page, learn more about us, HoaQ.co. As more people are becoming distributed around the world, it's much more important to stay connected and learn and leverage each other. For example, there's no way that I would have known Chidinma if not for HoaQ. There's no way I would have known Boris if not for HoaQ. And even as a member of HoaQ team, I know how much leverage I have just being connected to the right information and the right people. So we encourage you to join. We also have a newsletter. If you just want to get updates from us, please join. And next time, you can follow us on all the social medias platform. Please follow us so that my team member can meet her KPI. Just follow us on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, and now on TikTok. You'll soon see me dancing on TikTok, but please follow so that she can meet her KPI so we can all be happy. But thank you guys for joining. I try to rush through and not pass 5 minutes. Thank you so much. We'll do this again next month and see you soon. Thank you. Thank you for that, Folakemi. Thank you, Boris. Thank you, Chidinma. Thank you to my bosses, Nubia and Joe. I saw them on the call. Thank you so much, my investors. I saw Femi. Who else can I see? But thank you, everybody. You guys make this worth it. Thank you. And enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye. Bye.